So that show was such a big moment. Did you then get a sense, even though you were kind of busking it, as you say, you didn't really know what you were doing with show makeup, but it all came good and became such a big moment. Did you then get a sense that you had now become quite an important makeup artist at an important moment?
I did, but it was a funny thing. I didn't have a chance to realise what was happening, because from there, suddenly I was doing these like proper magazines. And so we just naturally said yes to everything and to everybody. Someone said, do you want to do so? Yes. How about yes? And I would just do all these, and I started doing other shows after Calvin. I started doing Helmut in '93, I think. It was my first Helmut show, Helmut Lang, and other shows. And it all just and I just said yes to everything that came along, because I thought I decided to do it.
I might go out of fashion, let's make some money.
I'm just going to do it. So, and of course, the idea being, if I'd known enough, I think I did the right thing. Like it's like Spidey sense or something. But if I'd known, I would now tell my younger self to do exactly the same thing. Say yes to everything that comes along. Some situations will work, and you'll find people that you click with, and it'll be good, and you'll have a great time. And other things will be a fucking disaster, and you'll be miserable, and you'll never do it again. But it's only going to be a day or two out of your life.
Yeah.
You'll manage.
Yeah.
You've had worse.
And do you think during that period of just kind of taking everything going, doing a really diverse selection of jobs, working with diverse selection of photographers, models and so on, do you think a signature style emerged then? Do you think you kind of refined in your head what made you that artist?
I think, what's interesting, because I kept working with, I worked with David for a few more years, then I didn't work with him, I haven't worked with David in donkey's years now. I kept working with Jürgen, I had bits and pieces with Glenn, worked with Nick Knight a little bit, and mostly it was the American photographers. I started working with Bruce Weber quite a bit, and working with Peter Lindbergh and all these other people. But what I did realise was people liked, and of course I'm not the first, like I said before, I've ripped off Stéphane Marais. Stéphane was one of my big influences, and I just love that you could see these women, you could see there were people in there. And even when Stéphane did high glamour, you still felt there was a person in there, and I loved that. And I told him when I first met him, I've been ripping you off for years, don't have me killed. And I think I got the rhythm of the work was that it's decoration. It's okay to I'm not a purist. I'm not pretending that this is my high art, but it washes off, and it's always washed off. Whether you're doing blitz, club, glam, post-punk, whatever, this stuff. Unless you've done something structural like taking your eyebrows off, it's all temporary. It's a temporary condition. There's nothing to get. You can't get hung up on this. So what was good, I thought, was I could be in any situation, and it turned out I could do makeup. That was the main thing.
That was lucky.
I used to get these phone calls because I've always had been able to, and I've done it for years and different things. But my agent would get phone calls, and I was still with Debbie before I signed with Jed Root in New York, and I was still with Debbie. And they were sort of swapping things back and forth until I finally moved to New York in the 90s and just was exclusively with Jed. But people would call and say, "Oh, can he do this?" Or
yeah, right.
He, because I guess they.
Well, that's what happens when you explode with one look.
Right.
Yeah.
And people think that's your thing.
Well, can he actually do a flicky eye though?
Yeah. So, and of course, yes. And it turned out I could. But the interesting thing was I had this kind of like base level of what I did, and I didn't think that there was any contradiction in loving a natural face with a giant eye or with a sudden strong matte lip or something. And why not? I mean, those are the two most important things two most important words in my career. Why not? That's really what's informed everything I do. No,
I love that. It's like you say, it's such an ephemeral thing, and it's such an experimental. It's a plaything, isn't it? Makeup. It's a plaything. In its crudest sense, it's little children with face paints doing that.
Yeah, and it's what we do, and I'm all about that. And I like the idea that I'm really quick. Like the first time I worked with Peter Lindbergh, he was like, he hadn't opened a camera bag. I was done, and I did what I was doing, and it was right for what we did, and I was done. And I don't. Of course, certain things take longer than others, and sometimes you have a challenge, a physical challenge with the way the skin is, or something you have to fix if there's a problem with that, or whatever you're doing. But otherwise, what's keeping you? Hanging around, like growing a beard, waiting for the assistants to finish something. I'm quite practical about getting it on and off, particularly during shows, because these poor girls have been mauled,
They've been
for weeks.
through the ringer, haven't they?
Yeah, so the less you do to them, the better, and then they might be your friend.
what look do you just love? Is there a certain look, whether it's, you know, what would you say your signature look is? Is it an obsession with skin, or is it, you know, a simple face but a killer mouth, or, you know?
It's hard, no, don't sound like a Pollyanna, but it's really hard without the context of who it is and where it is and what it is.
And where does that start then for you? The clothes, the girl, what's your first hook?
Everything. I mean, if I know in advance I'm working with a certain girl, then I need to think about who she is and where she's going to be and what this situation means. And sometimes people, it's weird, sometimes people get very mood boardy about stuff, and you get like a million references, and which I would rather not see, because you can't do that again. You can't. I mean, I got to the sad point where it's come around a few waves where I've got references and mood boards I've done half of. Like I had one show last season, they sent me a couple of the references, and I was like, well, those are both from shows that I did in the 90s. So if I haven't lost all the brain cells, I can probably do them again. Yeah. But it's a different girl. And I have had to point out sometimes people show you a reference, and I say, well, you know what you love about this picture is the girl. Is the girl. It's not the makeup, it's not the hair or the clothes. What you love about this is the girl and the feeling of the picture. We're not going to do that with, you know, random Exhibit A Frogmella with no personality because she's too young, hasn't had a chance to work with anybody, doesn't know who she is yet. Is that an important thing, the sort of skill of modelling? I was interviewing Kate Moss recently, about a month ago, and she was saying to me that before she gets to a shoot, she's still quite nervous. She said she's still quite nervous. She doesn't know what's going to be waiting for her. She doesn't know who she's going to be. She doesn't know what her character is. Right. And she said she gets there and she sees the clothes and she develops the character. She works out who the character is. She sees what hair and makeup have, you know, and it's a big collaboration, but quite quickly she thinks, who is this woman? Who is this girl? And I'm going to, because Kate Moss is essentially a silent movie actress, isn't she? I mean, she's an actress in a different way. And she said the moment she knows who that character is, she can do it. And she feels great and she feels on top of the world. Is that skill of modelling? Because I just feel like it's a really underrated skill. People just think, oh, well, you're pretty, you can be a model. Right. But yeah, I think if you look at someone like Kate Moss, who is undoubtedly extraordinary looking, I'm not saying that there's any less of that. Of course, she's unbelievably beautiful. She's a really good model. Yeah. I mean, that's important, right? That must be as important almost. It's probably the most important thing is how the person is in the camera. It's that version of that honesty thing, the honest lie of the girl in the clothes. Do you believe the girl in the clothes, or is it ridiculous from the get-go? And it takes a second to flick through a magazine, believe it, don't believe it, believe it, do not believe that for a second, believe it, don't, and that's the thing. Do you buy the fantasy? Whether the fantasy is trainers and sweatpants, whatever. Do you believe this girl in this situation? Or do you believe the entire lie of it? And not even, I mean, it is true of something like some of Jürgen's very straight up stuff as it is of Tim Walker's total fantasias. Some people disappear in Tim Walker's pictures. He finds them and he makes the picture work in whatever happens. He finds them and he makes that picture work, but some people just own the picture. Some people are completely in control and command of the lens inside of this cacophony and this kind of insanity going on. And some people, it's like you can see these kind of crazy crowd group shots of Bruce Weber sometimes when he does a massive, there's armies of models he has, and then there's one or two people in there, and they entirely own that. Yeah. Or there's an eye contact moment with somebody, and invariably because it's Bruce, he's found that person to tell that story, so that's the person you see. Yeah. Somehow he's able to do that, and that person, he has a connection with that person. So the ability to inhabit the situation, whether it's a bra and knickers, or couture or whatever, that's super important. Some girls have it innately and are able to do that, and some girls learn to do it very well, and other girls never learn. Some girls can't move in front of the camera. Some girls will give you an amazing still photograph. It's tricky nowadays because everyone wants behind-the-scenes video, everyone wants the making of, everyone wants even independent video content, which of course they want to try and do at the same time. And some girls just can't move in clothes. It's like the old joke about, asking a model at a casting, oh, can you walk? Well, of course I can walk. How do you think I got here? No, you can't. Can you sell me what we're selling? Do you miss that smoke and mirrors, though? Do you struggle with the fact that everything's so exposed now?
that you see the inner workings of everything all the time?
I think it's boring.
Do you
Too
miss
much
the
information.
mystery?
Because why you don't even want to see the end result. You get to the point where you don't really care about the end result because there's so much information, there's so much behind the scenes, there's so much going on that it spoils it. It's a bit like when you see on the telly sometimes they'll show you a little scene, like behind the scenes making of a film.
Yeah.
And you can see the wires. I don't want to see the wires.
Yeah.
I want to believe they're flying.
I find it a bit like, because I really, really love to cook, and I know you love to cook. And I cook a lot, and sometimes if I'm constantly, if I'm cooking and I'm watching all the ingredients go in, and I'm doing the chopping and I'm doing the tasting, by the time I finished it, I don't really fancy it. I don't really fancy eating it. I want to watch everyone else eat it, but I've lost my appetite for it because I've been involved all the way and I've done the tasting and all of that stuff. I feel a bit like that about the sort of behind the scenes era where we see every component going into the picture. And
I wonder if I feel that way because I am part of behind the scenes, so I already know.
Yeah.
But then I also think there's a song by that band Arcade Fire called "We Used to Wait," which is a really great idea. And I was thinking about that, how you would wait. You couldn't see, like my sister Vicky before, like, you know, she sees the Michael Kors show or the Narciso Rodriguez show, like live streaming or something when she's, you know, on her phone. I haven't seen it. I don't know what it is, but she's seen it. Why not wait for something? How can you possibly even wait for the clothes in the shops if you know?
It's hard to know if it's an industry thing though, isn't it? Because if you were back in Bristol and you were 17, you might be wetting your knickers over it.
But I mean, I'd have nothing to compare it to.
Yeah.
So that's the problem is, like, you know, you grew up in a certain way. Like there are, you know, I come talking to some of my assistants. You know, obviously I come from a pre-internet, pre-cell phone era when you'd call your agent and write it down, and you weren't waiting until 10 p.m. the night before for a call sheet. There was no technology backing those things up, but you didn't know where you were going more than 5 hours ahead of time. But in terms of the fashion, it was kind of cool to see, like, you know, Vogue would do a preview page and little tiny pictures like this, tiny pictures of all the shows, and then maybe one big picture of something important because it was an advertiser.
Yeah.
And then you'd wait for X months for the clothes to hit the shops. Not that you could afford them, but you'd go and have a look in the shops. It was amazing. Sure. Or they'd show up in the fashion magazines and the fashion editorial and story. But you would wait. There'd be a sense of anticipation of building of something kind of exciting, like waiting for a new record from someone, or, you know.
Yeah, we have limited attention span now.
That's part of the problem. There is the things themselves don't seem to have any longevity or critical importance at the time because they've been devalued by all the stuff surrounding them.
So you mentioned then advertising on pages. What happened to you is what happens to loads of major artists. So if you have an artist who changes beauty in some way, and inevitably then what happens is beauty brands jump on that artist and they want a piece of the magic. They want that artist's influence on their product, on their events, on their commercial output.
Right.
So we see it now with Val Garland going over to L'Oréal Paris. You know, we've seen it with we've seen it in the past with Sam McKnight and Pantene. So, you know, so you take a major artist, Mary Greenwell or Elizabeth Arden or whatever, and you say, work your magic over here. Now that happened to you with Shiseido.
Yeah.
What happens during that process? Is it a constant battle to maintain your vision and your artistic integrity, or is it rather fun, or does it change how you work, or is it all of the stuff? I mean, I imagine it's quite a tricky thing to navigate when you have a vision.
It's everything. It's all you. Of course, you're subject to market demand. They own it. It's their line. You know, you're helming it. You're a spokesperson. You're the voice of it. The noise
all
of
the
it.
Stuff, especially now,
yeah.
when all the streams of content
Right. But when I started, and I first started, I took over a domestic line that was called Inouï that Kevin O'Quan was designing. So I took over Inouï from Kevin O'Quan.
I remember it.
And I had a few seasons left of designing in their format. So there was a format that was established of the lipsticks looked a certain way and were a certain way. The eyeshadow palettes were a configuration of 5 colours or 3 colours in the palettes. There were certain things I had in the line, so I inherited that, and I had to work inside that arrangement, which is kind of great in a way.
Yeah.
Because I had a structure.
Yeah.
So
and it doesn't suck to follow Kevin O'Quan.
No,
you know.
it's great.
Yeah.
But they wanted me to take it somewhere else and do a different kind of thing, and so I did, and got the kind of models I wanted and the direction of the way I wanted to work with. And I wanted to do stuff that was very colour orientated and very colour driven. And I did a few sort of like tricky play things. They let me really play with that line, and I did that for I think 3 or 4 seasons. I did that, and then shut that down and then did a huge redesign, and it became Inway ID. And the idea of that was identity. It was the idea that you would create your own look using product. That we weren't going to, even though things were launched on a kind of regular basis, they weren't seasonal. We weren't like, here's your pastels for spring, and here's your jewel tones for fall, and that kind of stuff.
I hate spring makeup.
Boring. Because it's so boring. Who cares? And I had a lot of fun with that as well. And that was and I got to do nail polish. I got to do really decorative, fun thing. And that was probably during that period, we should say though, was when I really got to hone my idea of, like, to celebrate you use the word ephemeral, which I love. And I say temporary, which sounds a bit cheaper. But it's decorative. It's decoration. We're painters and decorators.
Yeah.
And so I honed that idea of that then, that it was something to play with, it was a decoration. And even from a pretty early stage, working with that company, and also before that, I'd done some consultation with other brands, but I'd never done anything full on, like hardcore, with that much, say, I was really resisting the corrective. I was really having a hard time with because so much of what the Asian industry was, the Japanese beauty industry was at the time, was anti-dark spots or even freckles. And this certain thing about lightness of skin tone and the whitening and these kind of things. And,
so you didn't want to change, you resisted the dramatic change of what nature had provided.
I just didn't see the point. Because, and I feel the same. I mean
there's bugger all wrong with a freckle.
Do you know what I mean?
I mean, you're never going to want to get rid of a freckle,
but
I don't
people
think.
weirdly did and do. But the funny thing was, from the get-go, I still have this idea that, and enhancement is also a weird word because it sounds a bit sad. It's like you're sort of patting someone on the head. We're going to enhance your beauty. I mean, you're not all that, but we'll do what we can. You work with what you've got. But I like the decorative. I like the idea that, you do work with what you've got, because that's just the honest way of doing it. I love the word slap. Talk to Simon Doonan about slap. That's such a great word.
Yeah.
Or like you put your face on. Hold on, let me put my face on.
Yeah.
You're going down the pub. Got a couple of minutes. So it's a bit of lippy, a bit of mascara, a bit of stuff in the cheeks. And I think there's something really joyful about that. So it's playful. It's something like you enjoy it.
Yeah.
I don't like the idea. Well, I guess I was resisting what I was getting to, the idea of the Japanese beauty industry, but globally the beauty industry was. I hate the idea that it was predicated on fear. The idea that the whole beauty industry was based on fear.
My nose needs to be thinner. My cheekbones need to be thinner.
I mean, the contour. That's a whole other kind of snooze, which I'm sure you've probably demolished in many interviews. But I miss those meetings. I missed all of those meetings. I missed the one where everyone had to have a skinny nose. I missed the one where everyone had to have, it would say, cheekbones. Yeah. Everyone's got cheekbones.
Yeah.
They may or may not be visible to the naked eye.
Yeah.
Everyone's got cheekbones. No one cares. It all comes from drag, but there's no humour left in it.
No, and that's the thing. So I've written tons and tons about contouring over the years because I think people are just fed up of me not being very nice about it. But and no
one cares what I say.
And I get that people should, I really, really, really believe that everybody should just do what they want to do. And if you want to contour, great. My issue is that can't be all there is.
No.
Like, that can't be all there is. That's what makes me sad, because beauty should be like a sweet shop. You should be able to take something off the shelf, put it in your mouth, enjoy it, then move on to the next thing. I just feel sad that it's all that, or it feels like it's been all that for a really long time. But your analogy about drag, as I often say, well, it's drag makeup, but that's exactly what it is. It's drag makeup without the humour.
Yeah.
Without the fun.
There's no joy in it. Who decided that noses were skinny? Missed that meeting. What about that funny little highlight? Where did that come from? It doesn't mean anything. And I've even had it with assistants sometimes who will just go to town on someone's face. I said, what are you doing? What is this? This is one of the things I've said in training a lot. Think about what you're doing, but more importantly, think about why you're doing it. If you don't think about if it's just a blind routine on anything.
Yes, that it just becomes part of doing a face, that you kind of facet it like an emerald. And that bloody eyebrow. Don't get me started on that. The Instagram brow.
Sodding eyebrow.
Okay, all makeup artists hate the Instagram brow. Okay,
right.
So one thing so whether you're speaking to Val Garland or Mary Greenwell or Charlotte Tilbury or Dick Page or whatever, like people are like, the Instagram brow. Why why does it bother you? I mean, I have my own thoughts on it, but nobody cares. But what are your thoughts on it?
It's because your eye goes straight to it, and I don't bother with the rest of the face.
Yeah.
It's almost like I know how this film ends.
Yeah.
I don't care.
Yeah.
It's really it's a big part of I don't care, and it is again. It's my mum. It's like she's so pretty. She's got such a lovely face, and what have you done that to her for? Because I mean I'd love to know why. Just the simple why of like where did, I mean it would be interesting to like
again it's a
trace the
drag thing
origin.
though, isn't it? It's adding arch where there isn't, because
not-
it's feminizing
But it's
brows
not just
by making
that.
it angles.
It's beyond that. This fade thing here.
Yeah, the concealer on the brow bone.
You know, and that whole kind of it's an Adel Rootstein mannequin thing. It's like, if you want eyebrows that you can see from space, all well and good, lovely, knock yourself out. But why? It's the idea of that supposedly one of the simplest, most creative things that anybody can do has become the most homogenous, most boring, most ordinary way of being. And I'm really fascinated. Because
you do quite a soft brow, don't you?
I generally do, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, and I like a little gap in a brow. I don't mind a scar. I don't, you know.
You can see hairs.
You can see hair. It's made of hair. I like shiny eyebrows.
Yeah.
Because they're made of hair. Sometimes hair is shiny. It's all different colours. It's not perfect. You know, I like it when they're not plucked in the middle. I like, you know, they come in all sorts, you know. There's so much information. There's a great thing. I don't always get this wrong. University, I think Boston, maybe somewhere in Massachusetts, that did a study of all these faces of well-known figures in the public sphere. So there were politicians, musicians, actors, actresses, and on one set of the pictures, they took out the eyebrows in airbrush, retouch, whatever.
Right.
In one set of the pictures, they took out the eyes.
Right.
And it was harder to recognise people without their eyebrows.
Wow. I love
so
that.
So if the eyes were gone,
I love that.
people will still, oh, it's so and so. It's like this.
So
one,
effectively, effectively what that's saying is that brows should be distinctive.
Yeah, and distinctive on your own terms, not everyone else's terms or whatever you've just lately seen.
Yeah.
The girl putting the drops on her face for some reason from here. I don't know what that's about.
Yeah.
That's another conversation.
What, the foundation and then
the
doing
oil
that.
thing and this beating herself to a pulp and then more concealer than you can check it.
But that
Come
thing,
over and paint my house.
but that thing, the oil thing with the dropper and on the sponge, that's advertising. That always feels like paid content to sell a serum to me. I see that a lot and I smell a rat with it. I don't think anybody actually does that.
I mean, but who knows? Also, what are these people? You know, how much time do you have in your day that you're going to do this?
This is my issue. It just doesn't feel very modern because it seems to be making demands on women's time. In order just to get the right shaped head. Yeah. I just feel like as a woman I'm told to freak out about enough stuff without worrying that my head has to change shape every morning.
And the simplest one, which I have the most truck with at work, with assistants or whatever it is concealer. That everyone has lost. I mean, I've missed a bunch of meetings. I missed the concealer meeting.
What's the concealer meeting?
The
No,
concealer
I bloody
meeting,
love concealer.
Concealer meeting is the one that just insists there should be no shade underneath the eye. But you know
that it's a blank.
It's blank, and it's like, but they're your eyeballs, and they live in a hole in your head with the skin on top. So there's sometimes shadow here. It's all right. And one of my prime examples, a great example of this, I think, you know, of course, it doesn't hurt that it's Cordula Raya or it's Tatiana Patitz or those, but you take those women in the wrong hands.
I mean, Tatiana did have shadow.
And Cordula had a big shadow and this thing. But once you take that away, once you erase that, suddenly it's a really long walk between the eye and the lip, and it's not that face anymore.
Yeah.
I add a shadow to people's eyes sometimes. Like sometimes we were doing shows like one of the Helmet shows, or maybe one of Narcisso's early shows, or could be Marc Jacobs. One of the girls who had the most interesting look to me, like Hannelore Knutz, and I'm trying to think who else was there. Was Hannelore, maybe Anne Catherine. A couple of the girls that just had like naturally kind of like mauvey shade colour
bit of blue
on
in
there, you know. Yeah. And then you put a bit of foundation on, and it's like, oh, the face is half gone. We've just taken away what kind of made that part of the face interesting. And again, that comes back to colour theory and how you look at chiaroscuro and look at light and shade and how it falls on the face. You clean something up too much. Was it that interesting to begin with? What are you doing? It's like it's the antithesis, like erasing the face to draw it back on again.
Yeah, yeah. Well,
you know.
I mean, that's a big thing, erasing the face to draw back on again. I mean, which I think in some contexts is really, really fun. So if you were, you know, Kevin Aucoin trying to make someone look like Barbra Streisand, brilliant. You know, that's what's required.
It's an entertainment. Yeah.
It's costume.
Yeah, it's costume.
Yeah, it's costume, and it's wonderful. And which is what drag is. It's taking a face off to invent a new one, and I love that. But that can't be the rule.
No,
that can't, you know.
Or for civilians. I mean, I sort of joke about don't try this at home.
Yeah.
But there's plenty of girls out there with mad makeup skills. Like I meet people, you know, I occasionally.
Yeah, the level of
someone
skill
like,
is really high now.
it is.
Yeah.
And, you know, so no one needs, I don't get asked questions like that anymore because everyone can do it. It's fine, there's no trouble. But, and again, it shouldn't be an issue because as we've established, makeup washes off, it's temporary. We're not talking about tattoos, apart from this bloody microblading thing, where the hell. It's all fine. I just don't like the idea that it's boring. That's the problem, my main problem with a lot of beauty nowadays is it's very, very boring. To supposedly be so creative, or for such a creative medium, for everyone to look like each other, or versions of.
Are there any sort of prominent women at the moment, whether you've worked with them or not is neither here nor there, but are there any women who you look at now and look at their kind of beauty aesthetic and feel really excited by it though, and just think, yes, that is something I can get on board with, that's inspiring to me? There must be some diamonds in the...
Would like an identifiable, recognizable...
Yeah.
Well, it's tricky because it's probably more structural, like girls who are amazing with their hair, I think. Because the ones I like facially are the ones who haven't really fucked with it too much. So the ones who are just like decorating, they're doing a little bit of something on their face and they look good because they still look like themselves. Or otherwise, it's a version of the thing I said before, like I'm engaged by certain faces, I'm just mad about certain faces. And it's got very little to do with how they treat their face.
Yeah.
It's just the face. Olivia Colman, I'm obsessed with how Olivia Colman looks.
Amazing face.
Still obsessed with Frances Latour. Always have been. But then it's probably the voice. But I mean, like...
Love Frances.
Like, I'm like, why is no one asking me to do Frances Latour makeup?
Love Frances.
I got really pissed off with Wendy when she got to Glenda Jackson for the Burberry campaign.
Yeah.
You probably don't even fucking know who she is, do you?
Surely Wendy Rowe knows who Glenda Jackson is.
She had a little Google. She had a little Google. But I've been obsessed with Glenda Jackson for donkey's years. We just saw her, went for my birthday to see her play King Lear in London last year, and she's playing in Edward Albee's Three Tall Women on Broadway next year. Obsessed. The voice, the face, everything, you know. So the component parts of her beauty are the physical fact of the beauty to begin with. Raving, tearing beauty version is Charlotte Rampling.
Yes.
With the hooded eye.
Yeah. She's got those eyes that I call Simpsons eyes, where the top and the bottom meet in the middle.
You know, yeah, it's like a snake. It's
like
a
Simpsons
snake eye. You know, that thing that she has that's super hooded. And I've met Charlotte each time I've worked with Charlotte, I haven't actually worked with her because she's done her own face, makeup and hair. When I worked with her with Jürgen, I've met her a bunch of times, and it's great. But you know, the genius part of it is, and the way to explain this when I'm talking to people, like either in interviews or if I'm training, and people say, "What do you do about?" And they're always corrective questions. I might be doing a makeup talk next year for this one group here, and I know the questions are going to all be corrective. They'll all be structural, corrective.
Yeah.
And people say, you know, what's best makeup for hooded eyes? And I think, well, Charlotte Rampling has hooded eyes, and she just puts like a ton of eyeshadow and eyeliner on. Not anymore, not as much as she used to, but like I love a hooded eye. I think it looks great. So
what kind of smudgy city thing on a hooded eye looks better on a hooded eye than anyone really.
You know, and so. That's, again, another 10-week conversation is plastic surgery, which is like another big bugbear of mine. The inflatable lip, Finding Nemo, who decided? Another thing I do in conversation training and whatever I did was Shiseido for a long time, because there was one lip thing they insisted was about plumping and fullness and something of the lip. I said, well, it's a lipstick. Why does it have to have this effect? And they said because the market research backs this up, and pretty much every brand at the same time was saying the same thing. Market research backs up like women like a plumping effect. So you do a little liner and you put a paler one on. You put a paler in the middle. It's chiaroscuro. It's sleight of hand. It's smoke and mirrors. And then I said, when did this happen? That someone decided that lips have to be big. Are we all going to go to Angelina Jolie's house and protest because is it her fault? Because, that's an amazing lip, and it's her lip.
I mean, yeah, she's got an amazing mouth. That's her beauty trademark.
Right.
Yeah.
But not everyone else does. And so I said, and it's on the same thread, the same line as I can't with makeup. When I can't means I won't. When people say I can't wear red lipstick, I won't wear red lipstick.
Yeah, which is fine.
Fair enough.
But
like, oh, my lips are too thin. Can you handle corn on the cob? How are you managing with soup? Is it okay? And anyone says, I can't, won't, I say, okay, Sean Young, Sigourney Weaver, Jennifer Jason Leigh, skinny mouths, red lipstick, killer, look amazing.
So what you're really saying there, I think, is that you're not you're not criticising women for thinking certain things about themselves. What you're doing there is showing a complete disdain for rules. You don't like rules.
It's because there aren't any. I mean, I won't do those things in magazines. I won't do the do's and don'ts.
Yeah.
Or the ins or outs.
Yeah.
I won't do the beautiful at any age.
Yeah.
Which is the biggest horseshit ever. Because I said this, you know, a long time ago. I really resent the idea that you get beiged out of existence at a certain point. Like, be as inoffensive as possible, please. You know, like, you should go to a, like, you can go, sooner or later, I was just joking.
Be polite and fade away.
Be discreet.
Cut your hair.
You know,
yeah.
You can't wear long hair for a certain age. Fuck off.
Yeah.
I was joking that maybe, you know, at one point you could go to a makeup counter, and if you're over 50, they'll sell you a corner to stand in. That's going to be. We have the new corners of the season.
Yeah.
With wallpaper that matches you.
Yeah.
So you can just disappear. Fuck that. You
yeah.
know? And I invoke Andrew Logan all the time and the alternative Miss World, and the idea of like, and you know, I was joking that someone said, who's the most exciting, you know, who's the most exciting public figure in the art world? And I said, well, you know, everyone's wearing leggings and smocks, and so no one cares. But you know, Grayson Perry is at least having a laugh, making you think a little bit. And there are plenty of women who are like Marilyn Minter here is so genius. And she was joking one time. I was working with Marilyn doing something, and she said, "You know, my daddy always said I should wear red lipstick so men would notice me." I'm like, Marilyn, you're 6 feet tall, with red hair and freckles, and yes, with red lipstick, of course, people notice you.
There was a column in the Daily Mail several years ago, which of course everybody started sending me on Twitter because they knew it would give me an absolute nerve. And there was a column on the Daily Mail written by Sarah Vine about why you shouldn't wear red lipstick because men don't like it.
Really?
And
also men don't like it.
So I hear that, I read that, and I immediately just want to kind of roll in red lipstick. I just want to only wear red lip. I mean, I love a red lip anyway. I do wear red a lot, but it made me want to wear only red for the rest of my life just to be annoying.
Because what's that even? What thought process leads someone to that point, to that observation?
But even if you make that observation, why on earth should I act on it? Like, why on earth should I act on something because boys might like me less? I mean, I find that offensive on about 15 levels. Oh,
well, you can't even get started. It's because, I mean, first of all, who cares? You know, who died and made you judge? It's the whole weirdness of
also, the point of red lipstick is never for other people, it's only for you, because it's a pain in the ass for everyone else. You leave it on their skin when you kiss them, it draws their attention to you, you can't get away from it, it's quite rebellious, it's attention grabbing, it's actually quite an annoying thing for other people, it's purely for you.
Yeah, good.
It's high maintenance, you absolutely do it for yourself, there's no other reason really to do it, and so that's why I like it.
But that is the point of decoration in the first place.
It's never pretending. Nobody's lips are actually red. Right. So nobody has bright red lips. You're never actually trying to fool anyone. It's a completely conscious, self-conscious decision. This is what I'm doing for me. That's what's so brilliant about it.
Yeah, exactly. And it's not a tattoo, and it's not a commitment anymore, you know. And the genius, of course, I mean, I did a whole big series of Red Stuff with Shiseido, and I went through this, and all the stuff they were saying about it. I said, listen, it's blood, it's sex, it's, you know, I said, if we really want to get into this, it's death, it's menstruation, it's all these things. It's sexual, you know, it's sexual awareness, availability, defense. It's a stop sign and it's an invitation. And they said, we can probably use about 10% of what you've said. I said, you don't think menstruation is going to fly in the copy? Maybe not. I said, but what is it really? I mean,
I can't think why you're no longer there.
Imagine. And I said, like, one of my favourite examples of red is in the Powell and Pressburger film Black Narcissus.
Yeah.
And the nun, Sister Ruth, when she divests herself of her orders, she shows up in the Mother Superior's office and puts red lipstick on.
Yeah.
And she's losing her mind. She's sweating like a whore, and there's a giant close-up of her putting this red lipstick on. It's a really brutal moment in the film. It's fantastic. So, you know, the red can be sort of super pissy and demure, or it can be Marilyn Monroe, or it can be this, or it can be all these versions of things. Princess Julia, it's everybody. You know, everyone's got their red. It doesn't belong to anybody. You know, and I love that. I love the idea of that. And nothing I've done like a good thing with my assistants is give you a picture of two actresses side by side, and we'll look at who's wearing more makeup. Audrey Hepburn is always wearing more makeup than Marilyn Monroe. Audrey Hepburn,
that's so true.
The ingenue, the doe-eyed gamine, is beat to a pulp. She's got eyebrows done with a carpenter's pencil. You know, Marilyn Monroe's pretty natural by comparison.
Do you know, I've never thought of that, but it's true. The difference is colour.
Yeah, it's colour.
It's not amount of makeup, it's colour, isn't it?
And it's, but you know,
it's gold eyeshadow and shimmery gold and red, glossy orangey red. And, yeah.
So, you know, this perception of, an idea of, this is like talking about colour. Diana Vreeland had that thing about the idea of how we think of colour. She liked the idea of, once she was asking for a billiard table green. It was not the colour of a billiard table, the idea of a billiard table green for a picture. Not the actual colour, the idea of it. Same thing as the idea of the beauty of Marilyn Monroe versus the idea of Audrey Hepburn. It's perception, it's entertainment, it's the idea of the abstraction of beauty that we perceive.
The idea that colour is high maintenance, and no colour is low maintenance.
And why did it take someone so long to do a natural look?
Yeah.
How do I do the new natural? It's the same as the old natural. We just need to sell you new things.